You know, some of the most profound ideas don't come from textbooks or lectures. They come from simple conversations. This explainer, it's all inspired by one of those chats, a talk between a social worker and a teacher that completely reframes how we think about neurodiversity. So let's get into it.
This right here, this was the question that kicked the whole thing off. And it's such a powerful reframe, isn't it? What if we just stopped looking for what's wrong and started seeing what's simply different? That one question changes everything. It shifts the conversation from trying to fix a problem to trying to understand a person.
So to make this idea really stick, the social worker used this brilliant metaphor. She said, look, it's not about broken hardware. It's about a different operating system. Think about an Apple user in a world built entirely for Windows PCs.
And this is pretty much how it works in our world, right? Our schools, our social structures, they're overwhelmingly built like a Windows environment. They have a very specific set of rules and expectations. But what if the child is an iOS user? They're perfectly functional, they're incredibly capable, but their whole interface just doesn't naturally sync up with the system they've been dropped into.
So the crucial point is this. The struggle we're seeing, all that frustration and difficulty, it isn't some flaw in the child. It's friction. At its very core, it's just a compatibility issue between two perfectly good but very, very different systems.
And this is where it really gets heartbreaking. Because so often we look at that friction and we call it a personal failure. We blame the one device that runs differently and we ask, why can't you just keep up? When maybe we should be asking, how can our system become more compatible?
Okay, but what about the science? I mean, we have brain scans, we have diagnoses like ADHD. Surely that explains everything, right? Well, this is where the conversation took another really interesting turn. It suggested that relying only on neuroscience can be its own kind of trap.
This quote just nails it. Saying something like, his prefrontal cortex is underdeveloped, sounds really official and scientific, but it also reduces a complex, living, breathing human being to a simple biological mechanism. The teacher actually called it neuroscientific chauvinism, this belief that a brain diagram can somehow tell you everything you need to know about a person's soul.
Because inside every single person, beyond all the circuits that an MRI can ever see, there's something more. There's what the teacher called the hidden layer, everything that makes up our inner world.
And this hidden layer, wow, it contains so much more than just neurotransmitters. It's the memory of every time you've been misunderstood. It's the emotional scars from past failures. It's the crushing weight of stress you're feeling right now. It's all the stories that no scan can ever capture. So a meltdown isn't just a brain event. It's the explosion of this entire inner world.
So all of this naturally brings us to the idea of empathy. We all think we know what it is, but if we can't fully see or understand that hidden layer in someone else, are we really being empathetic, or are we just, experiencing a biological reflex?
You've probably heard of mirror neurons. Science tells us they're the reason we might physically wince when we see someone else get hurt or feel a little sad when we see someone cry. They're an amazing biological tool for mimicry, for connection. But is that the same thing as true understanding?
And here's where we have to draw a really important line. Mirror neurons, they're automatic. They're a reflex. They mimic what they can see on the surface. But true empathy, that's an active, conscious choice. It's the hard work of trying to decode someone else's inner world, especially when what they're showing on the outside gives you nothing easy to mirror.
So, real empathy isn't about feeling what we think they're feeling. It's about having the humility to admit that we probably don't know at all. It's about setting aside our own interpretations and just patiently, humbly asking, listening, and learning.
And this all leads to a pretty beautiful and honestly kind of counterintuitive conclusion. If we really want to connect with and help someone whose experience is different from our own, the most powerful tool we have might just be humility. It's the wisdom of not knowing.
Which, of course, led the social worker to ask the big question. If we can't just rely on a diagnosis or a brain scan to give us a roadmap, then what are we supposed to do? What does help even look like in that world?
And the teacher's answer was so simple but so profound. It's not about having the perfect strategy or the final explanation. It's about starting from a place of curiosity, not certainty. Just embracing that we don't have all the answers, that's the first step.
So what does embracing not knowing actually sound like? Well, it sounds something like this. I may not fully understand your inner world, but I am willing to learn your unique operating system together with you. It's a total shift, right? It's not a promise to fix, but a promise to learn. It replaces the authority of being an expert with the partnership of being a fellow traveler.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in practice? How do we walk this path?
Well, the conversation leaves us with 3 really simple but powerful reminders for how to move forward.
First up, delabeling. A diagnosis like ADHD is a trait. It's a piece of information. It's not a life sentence that defines a person's entire future. Second, seeing agency. People are not just a bundle of chemical reactions. They have the capacity to choose, and we have to respect that. And finally, walking with humility. Real connection isn't about knowing everything. It's about building a genuine bond, even and especially when we don't fully understand.
And that really brings us to the core of this whole idea. Brain science is an incredibly powerful tool. It helps us see patterns, it gives us a language. But it can never, ever replace the uniquely human act of empathy. That conscious, humble choice to set aside our own assumptions and truly see the whole, complex, unique person standing right in front of us.